Hello and welcome. I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. Donald Trump has given his first speech to Congress since taking office on January the 20th. The US president hailed his foreign policy action, stating America is back, while Democrats jeered with some walking out in protest. During his speech, Trump revealed that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is ready to negotiate after last week's White House clash. The US president also signals that Russia is ready for peace, with serious discussions taking place. President Trump has also announced further reciprocal tariffs on India as US stock markets fall over trade war fears. Mexico and Canada have hit back at Trump as Justin Trudeau calls US tariffs a very dumb thing to do. Arab leaders have agreed on a 5-year, $53 billion plan to rebuild Gaza as an alternative to Trump's Riviera of the Middle East concept. The US and Israel have rejected the notion, while Hamas have welcomed the proposal. We'll stay on with that story, and the latest development coming from the Middle East is that Israel, which is maintaining a blockade of aid into Gaza, has now slammed the Arab leaders' Gaza Reconstruction proposal. Furthermore, the White House has stated that Trump stands by his vision for the Gaza Strip. Arab leaders have earlier approved a $53 billion reconstruction plan to counter US President Donald Trump's proposal. The plan was endorsed at an emergency summit in Cairo, Egypt. At the conclusion of the meeting, Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul-Gheit declared the Egypt plan is now an Arab plan. Egypt presented a detailed 91-page blueprint complete with images of lush neighbourhoods and grand public buildings aimed at challenging the US initiative, which had been criticised as a Middle East Riviera and shocked the Arab world and beyond. Joining us to discuss this evolving situation, we're joined by first Ali M. Bushback, who is an independent Palestinian researcher in Cairo. Ali, thank you very much for being here. Is there renewed optimism in Gaza amongst Palestinians now that a different plan has been put on the table, one which might not necessarily mean that all the people living in Gaza need to vacate?
Well, thank you. The thing is, it's more complicated on the ground. Palestinians are not optimistic about what will happen for their future, especially we are in the age of a fragile ceasefire. So either they are going to resume to the war or no. But the things also, they are optimistic about the Arab Summit, which giving them a good outline, outcome. So it's more acceptable and applicable plan that Masr proposed, and I guess all the Arab nation accepted this plan. This countering the Donald Trump, as you said, alternative plan to Donald Trump Middle East Riviera, and there is a team from Egypt and Qatar and US, UAE, Emirat, and Jordan. They will go to convince Donald Trump with the coming week, I guess.
Ali,
so the things.
Oh, sorry. Carry on.
So the atmosphere is about the Arab Summit result. The atmosphere is optimist, and we hope they could be able to apply it. Especially there is no exist to Hamas in the plan. Hamas will be dismantling, and that there is a temporary Palestinian commit. They will control Gaza as a temporary for a transfer period. So Hamas will not be as a body to running Gaza, and that's what Benjamin Netanyahu he want at least, what he would like.
Let's head now to our other guest, Yeshaya Rosenman, who's the project director at India-Israel Maitri Project, who is joining us from Israel. Yeshaya, thank you very much for being here. Ali there spoke about the disbanding of Hamas. Is that something that Israel thinks is realistic?
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, so Israel not only thinks it's realistic, I think there is a genuine, I think there's a general consensus here in Israel among all parties, except for, I would say, maybe most radical fringes, that yes, it is not only realistic, that it should be done. I think the Arab proposal is impossible, or it's wrong on multiple fronts. On one hand, it won't work. The Gaza Strip, saying that even if you will invest, if someone will invest $53 billion, again, most times in these kind of conferences, the money is promised and only a very small amount of it actually arrives. But even if $53 billion were to be invested, the Gaza Strip will not be rebuilt in 5 years or in 10 years. I don't think it will ever be fully rebuilt. It is largely destroyed. And so first of all, it will not work. And also bringing in the Palestinian Authority, which is a body with the same level of corruption as Afghanistan or Somalia, they are not going to change. They will never provide good governance. They are a useless body, and Abu Mazen will not live forever, and nobody knows what will come after him. So the proposal, first of all, will not work. Second of all, it will not have the right outcome. The Arab states that were at this conference have varying interests. On one hand, there are countries who are forward-looking, like UAE and Saudi Arabia and other various factions elsewhere in the Gulf, who want to to put an end to the Palestinian radicalism led by Hamas, the fact that they can flare up the region and basically global world opinion whenever they want, and destabilize the region. They want to put an end to this. That is one faction. The other faction, there are countries such as Jordan who are simply looking out for their own survival, because if the Palestinians will be relocated, it is a threat to the stability of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. Then there are factions led by Qatar, the most wealthy country in the region, Egypt, the most populous country in the region, who have an interest in preserving war with Israel. That is their interest, and therefore they want the Palestinian radicalism, led by the Hamas radicalism and violence, to continue. And they don't care if the Palestinian population suffers. To them, it's just, a collateral damage. So I think the outcome of, that these countries have agreed upon is misguided. I think Hamas must be removed. It is the best solution for the region, for global peace, for the Palestinians themselves. The main question remains where they can be relocated to, and that is a question that remains to be seen.
Yes, Yashai, I'd like to stay with you. Of course, there, as you've mentioned, will be sort of ulterior motives to these Arab nations who are agreeing on this plan. But what's any different from the plan that Donald Trump has proposed? Of course, he has his own vested interest. We've seen his social media video, which shows a golden statue. That probably won't happen if his plan comes through. But there clearly is an agenda from him, and that's one that that Israel supports. So in this instance, why is the Israeli-backed US plan better than the one that the Arab nations have come up with?
Yes, so as to Trump sipping alcoholic beverage on the beach next to a Trump Hotel Gaza, again, I think this is a fantasy. I think it's clearly it won't happen. But I don't know what Riviera on Gaza means. I think it's, again, largely a fantasy. But if I were to concentrate on one component, the component of removing a large amount of the population of Gaza, basically whoever wants to leave, and again, there's, I think, a consensus that many Gazans, a large percentage of the population, would want to leave on their own volition if they were given a place to go to. If we concentrate on that component, I think it is correct. It is the right solution. It is putting an end, getting people out of the clutches of the totalitarian regime of Hamas that makes their life miserable and believes in a perpetual war against Israel. It will give whoever wants the opportunity, genuinely wants the opportunity, a chance to rebuild his life as a productive citizen somewhere else. It will not be easy, but I think that is the best solution to get them out of the dead-end situation they're in now. The Arab proposal, the Arab League, not Arab League, the Arab, whatever the conference proposal, simply keeps them in Gaza, in ruin, among rubble and unexploded bombs, and under a totalitarian regime. I don't see how that helps anyone other than those who want war.
Ali, I'd like to come to you, given your area of research and your expertise. Yashai there mentioned that many Palestinians want to leave, but this option put on the table by the Arab nations means that they wouldn't have to. Do you think the majority of Gazans do want to leave? Do you think any Gazans want to leave if they don't have to?
Well, the thing is, according to Arab nation, there is no displacement for the Palestinian or Gazan who want to rebuilding their area. they will create some security area, and they will rebuild some other area. So the things is on the ground, I guess most of the Palestinians from Gaza, they rejected the notion or the idea to leave Gaza. Since the 15 months of displacement and suffering from away from their home, and they were suffering from the war, so they have a practical. I mean, they went through tough time when they displaced from northern Gaza to southern Gaza. So then the idea, I guess, it's not acceptable. Most of the people, they prefer to sit in tent, and we have seen that during the harsh cold in Gaza. During the wars, they steadfast in their tent, and they are shelterless, and they I mean prefer to die on their land rather to leave to other area. But the thing is also on the ground, Israel, what is doing? Israel is nowadays, after the cut off the humanitarian aid, make the life more miserable in Gaza. As I said, I mentioned last two interview that the prices of I mean the prices of the groceries is increased 10 times. Things is more tough, and it's a miserable. It's really make it the things is incredibly to believe how to stay, and the people from Gaza, especially the children who's suffering during this holy month, and for during this also time period.
Yeshaya, coming to you, we are of course talking about a future for Gaza, but we are in a situation where there is a ceasefire impasse, and it seems that negotiations need to move forward before any of these discussions can come into play. Looking at those next steps, where do you think we currently are, and how do you think we get past this impasse so these discussions that are being had by conglomerates of nations can be more feasible and be more realistic?
I can only speculate on what goes on in closed doors in the White House or in Qatar or in Cairo, but I have a clearer picture of what the Israeli leadership is saying to, I would say, the mainstream. And again, Netanyahu has his small war cabinet of confidence, etc. But the way it appears in Israel is that it's a zero-sum game. Either Hamas remains in power, and in which the Palestinians have no future, and we just set a time clock for the next round of war, or Hamas is removed from power, and then it's a question of rebuilding, relocating the Gazans, etc. So as is, I think, unpleasant as it is to say this, I think war is inevitable. I think Hamas war will eventually, sooner or later, break out in order to topple the Hamas regime, and then it remains to see what happens after that.
Ali, to come to you to finish this discussion, can you explain to us and the audience how devastating a return to war would be? You've mentioned already how the situation is on the ground, prices rising, aid no longer arriving into the Gaza Strip. So what would a return to conflict mean for the people that have already gone through so much in Gaza?
Well, it's a miserable idea that to return to the war, and which no one would accept it at all. Especially that, as I mentioned, that 15 months of suffering, a lot of lose, a lot of people who lost their beloved, their home, their everything. They lost even their dignity during the displacement. Although the social cohesion, it's not like before the war. The thing is, the idea, it's very terrible for Palestinians to return to the war, and I guess no one will support Hamas in this stage. Especially they will not be patient more than this. People now without shelter, with people now homeless, most of the people from northern Gaza. Even there is 100 of Palestinians, they didn't return from southern part to northern part due to the huge destruction on the ground. So the idea to return to the war, it's not acceptable, I guess, and Hamas believe in that, and Hamas knows that very well, that there is Palestinians, they don't have enough patient to handle this again. to handle the war. That's it. Hamas accepted the Arab notion, despite they will not be the body of ruling Gaza. And I guess Hamas will accept also to extend the first phase in some way, because they knows that there is no one has a patience, there is no one has an ability to continue this destruction and this let me say it, genocide war, because Israel killed more than 48,000 Palestinians, and most of them they were civilians. So there is a huge loss in Palestinian community. That's it. I guess no one will accept to go back to the war.
Ali and Yeshaya, thank you very much for joining us. The situation, of course, in Gaza and across the Middle East remains turbulent. Hostages still being held and people living in conditions that is not consistent with a normal life. But we will, of course, bring you all of those updates on the ceasefires and the future plans as we get them. But we now move to America, and in his address to Congress, Donald Trump mentioned receiving an important letter from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This report covers the statements made by both leaders following their White House spat.
Україна завжди буде вдячною Америці за всю ту підтримку, яка надавалась, яка надається і яка працює на збереження на сьогодні вже доволі крихких основ безпеки в Європі. Це ж не просто про нашу країну, це про всіх в Європі. Ми прагнемо конструктивної співпраці, партнерських відносин, про те, що
Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace.
The statements indicate a cooling of tensions between the leaders following their fiery meeting in the Oval Office last week. Ukraine is yet to comment on the letter. Time will tell whether the US, Russia, and Europe reach a constructive peace deal regarding the Ukraine conflict. Bureau Report, NewsX World.
Let's now take a look at more of the latest news from across North America. The US has designated Yemen's Houthi movement Ansar Allah as a foreign terrorist organisation, reinstating sanctions on those supporting the group. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the Houthis' actions threaten US security, regional stability and global trade. He also warned against any country doing business with the Houthis. This decision follows a process started by President Donald Trump in January. Severe storms in Mississippi have left 2 people dead and knocked out power to tens of thousands. Governor Tate Reeves expressed his condolences, though details about the deaths remain unclear. The storms also triggered high wind warnings in Louisiana, including Baton Rouge and New Orleans, where Mardi Gras celebrations continued despite weather disruptions. 2 EF1 tornadoes touched down in Louisiana, but no injuries were reported. US authorities have launched a criminal investigation into Andrew and Tristan Tate. Florida Attorney General James Utmeyer instructed prosecutors to review evidence and issue search warrants. The brothers, who arrived in Florida last week after Romanian authorities lifted their travel ban, face charges related to human trafficking and exploitation in Romania. The Tates deny the allegations. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said they are not welcome in the state. Each winter, wildlife managers in New Mexico and Arizona conduct a survey to track the recovery of the endangered Mexican grey wolf. Using cameras, telemetry and helicopters, they monitor the wolf's progress. This year's count shows the species' slow but steady recovery. Listed as endangered in 1976, the Mexican wolf's reintroduction has sparked legal battles between environmentalists and ranchers, but efforts to restore the wolf to its historic range continue. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams will return to Earth after 9 months on the International Space Station. They'll head home later this month once their replacements arrive. They will be joined by 2 astronauts and 2 empty seats on a SpaceX capsule. Wilmore said politics played a role in the timing but didn't affect their return. The change was due to a SpaceX capsule update. Chaos, clashes and controversy. Trump's speech to Congress turned into a political showdown. A Democrats' protest sign was ripped away, lawmakers in pink made a bold statement, and Al Green was ejected mid-session. Here is how it all unfolded.
Donald Trump delivers his first major address to Congress since returning to the White House, outlining his economic vision and spending plans, but the night is overshadowed by protests from Democrats. In a coordinated protest, Democratic lawmakers wore pink to symbolize opposition to Trump's economic and social policies. Tensions escalate as Republican Lance Gooden forcibly yanks the sign from Democrat Melanie Stansbury, causing an uproar in the chamber. Chaos intensifies as Texas Democrat Al Green interrupts Trump's speech, slamming his proposed Medicaid cuts.
Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session.
Green is forcibly removed as Republicans applaud, highlighting the deep partisan divide over Trump's economic policies.
I was making it clear to the president that he has no mandate to cut Medicaid. I have people who are very fearful. These are poor people, and they have only Medicaid in their lives when it comes to their health care. I'm willing to suffer whatever punishment is available to me. I didn't say to anyone, don't punish me. I've said I'll accept the punishment, but it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
Democratic Senator Elissa Slotkin delivers a blistering rebuttal, accusing Trump of prioritizing billionaires over working Americans. Democrats warn that Trump's tariffs on allies will increase costs for energy, lumber, and cars, while his healthcare cuts could threaten Medicare, Social Security, and veterans' benefits. A night meant to showcase Trump's policy vision turned into a political battleground, exposing the deepening divide in Washington. As the White House pushes forward, Democrats vow fierce resistance. Bureau Report, NewsX World.
We'll now head to Europe for more of the latest news from that continent. Leaders of the Conservatives and the Social Democrats say they agree to easing Germany's debt brake. This would allow higher defence spending and support a €500 billion infrastructure fund. CDU leader Friedrich Merz, who is expected to become German Chancellor after his recent snap election victory, said, "We are aware of the scale of the task ahead of us and we want to take the first necessary steps and decisions." According to the UK's Home Office, Americans applied for British citizenship in record numbers last year, with the noticeable jump in applications in late 2024, around the time of US President Donald Trump's re-election. A similar surge happened in early 2020, when many Americans gave up their citizenship. France's Prime Minister François Bayrou called the US pause on military aid to Ukraine unbearable. He said it amounts to abandoning Ukrainians and could lead to a Russian victory. The French leader, a close ally of President Emmanuel Macron, also criticised White House pressure on Ukraine to quickly negotiate an end to the fighting. Irish police are investigating a stabbing incident involving 2 boys at a primary school in northern Dublin. The 11-year-old victim was taken to a hospital's intensive care unit and has serious non-life-threatening injuries. Police are working with school management to understand the incident better. It is not being treated as a criminal case due to the boys' ages, as the minimum age of responsibility in Ireland is 12. The Education Department confirmed support for the staff and school community that is being provided. China has announced a 7.2% increase in its defence budget for the third consecutive year. This comes as Beijing pushes forward with military modernisation amid heightened tensions over Taiwan and its claims over the South China Sea. China's military spending remains the second highest globally, trailing only the United States, which has proposed an $850 billion defence budget for 2025. Here is more in the report.
The Chinese government has announced a 7.2% increase in its defense budget. Now, the 2025 budget stands at $245 billion. This budget was presented at the annual legislature meeting of the National People's Congress. Beijing aims to modernize its military by 2035, focusing on advanced technology and combat readiness. This includes developing new missiles and expanding its naval capabilities. Ever since Jinping has come to power and became the commander-in-chief of the PLA, the defense budget has ballooned to 1.78 trillion yuan this year from 720 billion yuan in 2013. Additionally, speaking to the CCP supporters at the Congress, Premier Li Qiang reaffirmed China's commitment to a peaceful reunification with Taiwan and warned against any external support for Taiwan's independence. Tensions with the United States, Taiwan, Japan, and other neighbors that have claims to the vital South China Sea are believed to be contributing to Beijing's development of advanced military technologies, including nuclear weapons and aircraft carriers. The People's Liberation Army remains at the center of Beijing's global power ambitions, even as corruption scandals have shaken its leadership over the last couple of years. Bureau Report, NewsX World.
That's it for now, but we'll be back continuing to bring you all of the latest international news.